Welcome to Medill Sports Talk, where we break down the news this week for the sports you love. I'm your host, Alexa Adler. Joining me to talk about the NHL and Olympic hockey are Jordan Klein and Nick Mantis. Let's start with the NHL. The Las Vegas Golden Knights, the NHL's latest expansion team, and maybe greatest expansion team, have taken the league by storm. Jordan, are they a legitimate threat to compete for the Stanley Cup this season?
I think so, absolutely. If you look at the way that they've been playing this year, they play with such great aggression, such great passion, and they play so well together as a team. What's so surprising to me is this team at the beginning of the year was supposed to be the island of misfit toys, and they're certainly not playing like that at all. They have the best home record in the NHL, which some have attributed to being the fact that they play in Vegas. Others just acknowledge how good that they are. I'm in that camp. I'm bullish on this team because they're top 5 in goals for and goals against. They play so well together as a team. Of course, anything can happen once we get into the playoffs, but for now, are they a contender? Absolutely.
Yeah, this team definitely has something to prove.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree that they could be a contender, but once you get into that contention, once you get into the playoffs, that's a whole different animal. I mean, we know that the Stanley Cup and anything within the NHL has taught us anything. It can happen at any moment, and it can change at any moment. Now, I'm referencing the Blackhawks against the Bruins when they took them 17 seconds to score 2 goals and to force it to make sure that it was going to end right there within that Game 6 in Boston. So you talk about that home advantage. You talk about the fact that they've been doing a great job so far this season. Does that mean that this island of misfit toys and this band of brothers type of team can actually do something in the Stanley Cup playoffs? I'm more along the lines of we'll wait and see, because anything can happen once we get into those playoffs. So I disagree that they're going to do it. They're definitely in contention. So it's more of a wait and see game at this point.
Well, I also think that the playoffs are always sort of a different beast. I mean, if you look at the Washington Capitals, President Cup winner, but then not yet to have gotten a Stanley Cup recently.
Sure. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that really comes down to it in the playoffs is one of 2 things I think can often lead to success. I think it's good experience, and I think it's great motivation. And this team has a little bit of both. When you look at their goalie, Marc-Andre Fleury has a lot of experience throughout his career, and he could be a guy that leads the locker room atmosphere in the playoffs. And talk about great motivation that this team gets to play for as well. They're playing for the city of Las Vegas, which, as we all know, experienced quite a tragedy at the beginning of this year. They have that city on their back now, some of the best home ice attendance in the NHL. That's incredible motivation, not to mention all these guys feel like they've been snubbed by the NHL, so that's a great purpose to play for too. You combine both of those factors, this team becomes dangerous. No matter how crazy the playoffs can shake up, if you've got motivation and you've got leadership, I think you've got a shot.
Well, yeah, their stadium and their crowd is just electric, so we'll have to see how that turns out. So, the Blackhawks and the Oilers have both struggled this year. Chicago hasn't missed the playoffs since the 2007-2008 season. The Oilers made it for the first time in 10 years last season. Now they both sit in the bottom half of their divisions. Does either team have a chance to rally and qualify?
I'd say that they both have a chance, at this stage of the game, going into the playoff, or going into the All-Star Weekend this weekend. So we have an opportunity to see what's going to happen when guys get a rest and they get to come back. Not only to mention who's coming back for these Blackhawks, is that guy Corey Crawford. That stability that you have within being the netminder that you were, and the idea of bringing that team, especially here in Chicago, bringing that hard, gritty, working man type of mentality back to the ice. Corey Crawford coming back at the injury and actually being around the team, it could see him come back after the All-Star break. So I'd say that they both have a chance, but I'd say the Blackhawks in particular may have a better chance. Not only are they bound in the division, so that gives them motivation to work harder, but also they're getting their guy back. They're getting a lot of guys who are coming back after the All-Star break. It's going to be interesting to see how that shapes up for the playoff run. And not only last night, they were able to beat the Red Wings 5-1 in a huge game. So it's going to be interesting, and I'm really excited to see these Blackhawks make a push.
Yeah, I think last night was amazing with Alex DeBrinca's hat trick, more like Alex DeBrink hat trick, but.
I agree with you. You mentioned Corey Crawford coming back. You mentioned defense. The thing that makes me nervous about the Oilers making the playoffs also has to do with defense. They have the 3rd worst goals against statistic in the NHL. They give up so many goals, and they don't have a good enough offense to counterbalance that. The Blackhawks are struggling defensively, but they still outpace themselves in goals scored versus goals against. I think that's a good sign. Once you start getting higher quality shots later on in the season, maybe you start putting more pucks in the net rather than just on net. I think they've got a better shot than the Oilers because primarily the Oilers' defense is a huge hurdle to overcome.
So yeah, we'll hold out hope for the home team.
Absolutely.
So if the Blackhawks miss the playoffs, does the Blackhawks front office need to shake up their roster, which is the 6th oldest in the NHL?
It's something I think that you have to consider, and it makes me sad to say that because I'm a hometown kid. I grew up watching this
These are
team.
your boys, man.
Yeah.
These are my guys,
Right?
and
Yeah.
this crew that has been with them since that 07, 08 season, that was the last time they missed the playoffs. This crew has been taking them to the playoffs year after year for a decade, and the Blackhawks had a ghost town period between the late 90s and those early 2000s where there was no excitement around the team at all, and this core group brought it back, but now this core group is aging. If you look at your two big defensive guys, Brent Seabrook and Duncan Keith, both are over the age of 30. Their contracts are locked in past 2020. Same with Taves and Kane. A lot of our guys, the core guys, are locked in for long-term contracts. They're aging and their production is declining. I don't think it's out of the question to make a move. I'm not happy about it. I think it's sad, but you got to at least entertain the thought.
Absolutely, and I feel for you. You know, these are your guys. You in a sense grew up with this team. They brought back some excitement to the area.
Yeah,
Not
Taves
only
and
that-
Kane are literally hometown heroes
Right,
for
and-
Chicagoans.
100%.
Stanley Cup winners. I mean, this is what you want to see out of a big time team and a big time organization with the Chicago Blackhawks. The two things that they really need to work on: defense and power plays. Whether or not we can see them make some trades, whether or not they want to shake up not just the core, but also get some guys to support that core and definitely keep you happy at the same time, keeping your boys here in Chicago. That'll be interesting to see. And what I'm really looking forward to is not only making sure that they have that defense, but they have the power plays. They're able to make something happen. So have some hope, buddy. It's going to be all right.
So shifting gears to the Olympics, the NHL won't be sending its players to the Winter Games for the first time since 1998. Nick, what's the impact of this on the upcoming games in Pyeongchang?
You know, at first I didn't like it. I was really mad. I want to see these guys who we love in the NHL really play for their hometown teams or their home country teams, and see guys not only for international teams, but for USA specifically. We haven't won since Miracle on Ice in 1980, and so it's one of those you have to take that in consideration. You want to go back to that mindset of having guys who aren't playing in the NHL right now actually be on that USA team, except most of the guys on this USA roster have played in the NHL before. So whether or not that's a win for the NHL in a way, right into that they have the All-Star Weekend this weekend, and their guys are going to be on the USA team, gives them an opportunity to showcase how much talent they have in the NHL. So they made out all right with this, the NHL from the NHL's perspective.
Oh, it's all about business.
But for the rest of us as fans,
Yeah.
though, you'd rather want to see who in the NHL who's an all-star play in the international scene. So, I mean, that's going to be interesting to watch. Whether or not that's going to be entertaining, I don't think it's going to be entertaining for me personally. But what do you think that also it'll be?
See, I take a slightly different stance. I agree with you that it's definitely a draw to see your NHL players in the Olympics because you recognize those big names, your Crosbys, your Ovechkins, etc. But I think one of the great things that's going to come out of this is the incredible storylines that we're going to be able to see play out as the Olympics carry on, because you have guys on this USA team, on the Canada team that were snubbed in the NHL draft, guys that were #1 overall picks that then became busts. You have guys at the latter half of their careers playing abroad, now getting the chance to represent their country. I mean, NBC Sports is going to have a field day. I think those are
Yeah.
all incredible stories. And as fans, we get to watch some pretty good hockey. These guys are not schlubs by any means. They can play, and it evens the playing field. It's going to lead to a competitive match. I like it. Overall, I like it.
I mean, who doesn't love a comeback story?
Yeah.
I know I do.
So looking at the All-Star tournament, the format is a 3-on-3 4-team tourney. Who are you guys taking in the tournament?
Well, I definitely have to say that the Metropolitan division.
Yes.
It's definitely going to be interesting to watch. The 3-on-3 in itself will be exciting because I think it's going to be a lot more fast-paced. You're going to see some great skating, some one-timers, and it's going to be fun to watch to see who has the skills, who's going to be pushing up the ice, who's really going to make it happen. So, the 3-on-3 is definitely going to be different, and we'll see if it actually brings in some crowd.
Yeah, Ovechkin and Crosby in that Metropolitan division.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. I think it's going to be fun to watch. You give these guys more space to work, and it can only lead to more athleticism, more finesse, more speed. What's not to love from a hockey fan's perspective?
Absolutely.
Completely. The NHL All-Star Tournament starts on Sunday, but for now, that's it from us on hockey. Be sure to check out our other segments on our YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter at Medill Sports Talk. For my co-hosts and our crew, I'm Alexa Adler. Thanks for joining us here on Medill Sports Talk.